All right, Shalom. This is the second installment of 40 Reasons Why Our Jails Are Full of Black and Poor People. I forgot to mention, this is by Bill Quigley. He looks like an Edomite, you see. So you can't just say it's Jake saying it. It looks like an Edomite is saying it. But before I continue on, I want to get a scripture. This is the book of James, chapter 2, verse 6. But you have despised the poor. Who's the poor is Israel. You despise them because you set up legislation to keep them in prison. Do not rich men oppress you? Yeah, set up by the elites, man. And draw you before the judgment seat. Because as you can see, most of the Israelites in jail, they have to go to jail, not because there's some murderers and killers, but it's basically goes back to they don't have bail money. And they're getting long-term sentences for petty crimes. All right? The scriptures don't keep anybody in jail long. That's not in the scriptures. You know, the scriptures don't speak on that. All right. You commit a crime, you get the judgment, and you move on. All right. This is starting at number 11. Number 11. This is the 40 reasons why basically Jake is in jail, in prison. 11. Many people in jail and prison because the U.S. has much tougher drug laws and much longer sentences for drug offenses than most other countries. Drug offenders receive an average sentence of 7 months in France, 12 months in England, and 23 months in the United States. Number 12. The bail system penalizes poor people. Every day, there are about 500,000 people in jail who are still presumed innocent and waiting trial just because they are too poor to pay money to get out on bail. Not too long ago, judges used to allow most people, even poor people, to be free while they were awaiting trial, but no more. In a 2013 study of New York City courts, over 50% of the people held in jail awaiting trial for misdemeanor or felony charges were unable to pay bail amounts of $2,500 or less dollars. As you can see, like I said earlier, that's the spirit. Most of the Israelites in jail, they are in jail because they're too poor to pay the fines. All right. You know, you work a 9 to 5, you got a set amount you making every week. You get that $200 ticket. It's a wrap. All right. 13. Jails and prisons provide a lot of jobs to local, state, and federal officials. To understand how this system works, it is good to know the difference between jail and prisons. Jails are local, usually for people recently arrested or awaiting trial. Prisons are state and federal and are for people who have already been convicted. There are more than 3,000 local jails across the U.S. according to the Vera Institute, and together they usually hold about 500,000 people awaiting trial and additional 200,000 or so convicted on minor charges. Over the course of a year, these local jails process over 11.7 million people. Prisons are state and federal lockups, which usually hold about twice the number of people as local jails or just over 1.5 million prisoners. 14. The people in local jails are not there because they are a threat to the rest of us. Nearly 75% of the hundreds of thousands people in local jails are there for non-violent offenses such as traffic, property, drug, or public order offenses. Number 15. Criminal bonds are big business. Nationwide, over 60% of the people arrested are forced to post a financial bond to be released pending trial, usually by posting cash or a house or a paying bond company. There are about 15,000 bail bond agents working in the bond industry, which takes in about $14 billion every year. So getting into the bail bond industry is a lucrative business because you profit off poor people that have to post bail. And if they don't post bail, they're going to be stuck in jail. So they'll push to post bail, come up with cash money. That's why you see bail bondsmen advertising everywhere you go in your city, because people, they get up on this new hustle. All right. Number 16. A very high percentage of people in local jails are people with diagnosed mental illnesses. The rate of mental illness inside a jail is 4 to 6 times higher than on the outside. Over 14% of the men and over 30% of the women entering jails and prisons were found to have serious mental illness in a study over 100 prisoners. in a study of over 100 prisoners. A recent study in New York City's Rikers Island found 4,000 prisoners. 40% of their inmates were suffering from mental illnesses. In many of our cities, the local jail is the primary place where people with severe mental problems end up. Yet treatment for mental illness in jails is nearly non-existent. 17. Lots of people in jail need treatment. Nearly 70% of people in prison meet the medical criteria for drug abuse or dependence, yet only 7 to 17% ever receive drug abuse treatment inside prison. Number 18. Those who are too poor, too mentally ill, or too chemically dependent, though still presumed innocent, are kept in cages until their trial dates. No wonder it is fair to say, as the New York Times reported, our jails have become vast warehouses made up primarily of people too poor to post bail or too ill with mental health or drug problems to adequately care for themselves. Number 19. Poor people have to rely on public defenders. Though anyone threatened with even a day in jail is entitled to a lawyer, the reality is much different. Many poor people facing misdemeanor charges never see a lawyer at all. For example, in Delaware, more than 75% of the people in its court of common pleas never speak to a lawyer. A study of Jackson County, Michigan found 95% of people facing misdemeanors waive their right to an attorney and plead guilty rather than pay $240 charge for a public defender. 13 states have no state structure at all to make sure people have access to public defenders in misdemeanor courts. Number 20. When poor people face felony charges, they often find the public defenders overworked and underfunded and thus not fully available to provide adequate help in their case. In recent years, public defenders in Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, and Pennsylvania were so overwhelmed with cases they refused to represent any new clients. Most other states also have public defender offices that have been crushed by overwork, inadequate finances, and do not measure up to the basic principles for public defenders outlined by American Bar Association. It is not uncommon for public defenders to have more than 100 cases going at the same time, sometimes several hundred. Famous trial lawyer Gary Spence, who never lost a criminal case because of his extensive preparation for each one, said that if he was a public defender and represented 100 clients, he would never won a case. All right. So that concludes the second installment to why basically Esau oppresses Jake. And the name of the article is 40 Reasons Why Our Jails Are Full of Black and Poor People. But it goes on to expound on so-called Black and Hispanic, which make up the northern and southern kingdom of Israel. All right, to the next lesson. Shalom.